Good evening and welcome to the March 24th, 2026 meeting of the Spackenkill Union Free School District Board of Education. I'd ask that you rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 2.01 is comments from the public on consent agenda items only. Do we have any public comment on consent agenda items? Any board discussion on the consent agenda? No? Okay, I'll ask for a vote to accept the consent agenda as prepared. Do I have a second? All in favor? Aye. It's 4-0. Brings us over to 6.01. The superintendent's preliminary recommended budget.
Wow, that did come fast.
That was fast. Seemed very fast.
Yeah, I'll take it. So I'll just start off. I'll probably end up reading it, even though I'll say I won't read it, but just look at the agenda for tonight. So this is what the presentation will entail. Talking a little bit about the state budget, the economy, what are responsible decisions, and you can kind of see down there. We'll really highlight district successes, so we can talk a little bit about what we've been doing, and then look at the budget, the proposed budget, and other things. And then also within the budget itself would be all of this. So we're going to look at, looking at what we're going to spend the money on, a contingency budget, what the budget looks like overall, and then really look at the tax levy, and then finish off with only about 3 more dates of the budget, and then May will be the budget vote. So that'll be tonight's presentation. I'll hop right into it. So a little bit of the state budget, the economy. So we have conservatively budgeted our state revenue forecast in this budget. Our reserves are still healthy, and that's a plus, and the comptroller's fiscal stress report is positive. We're very consistent with this through the years, but this continues to be our trend, which is great. These are sort of the questions we've answered, are what are responsible decisions? Presenting a budget that's under the tax cap. We've been trying to do that every year. Provide a budget that reduces the possibility of significant negative fluctuations in the future. That basically means we don't want to go too low one year, so then we have to go really, really high another year. We try to balance it to really help with that. We've been able to do that. Don't know if that always can be the case, but we have been able to do that for the past bunch of years. Maintaining a student-centered learning environment, communicating our academic successes, right, and promoting our economic vitality. You'll see that here tonight. And seeking additional revenues, namely our tuition program. So, sort of our instructional response, what do we try to do each year to make sure we're responding to what we need? A lot is done in our after-school programs and our summer curriculum planning to really we take a look at what's happening this year, look at the gaps in learning, and then try to develop programs to help with that. Our Virtual Tech Academy has been a really great endeavor we've been doing now for probably 7 years, led by Marcella Bird, and that really helps in the summertime to really get our teachers trained on the latest bit of technologies. We see that changes daily, so this summertime definitely helps catch us up. Some of the other stuff we've been doing is we've been working with an AI consultant, Jerry Creasy. We did a futuring activity with him in November at our superintendent's conference. It was really a pretty cool event. Talked about what the future will look like. We were in small groups and we looked at what would be probable, plausible, possible, and preposterous for the future in schools. And this really helped us help guide conversations of what schools could look like preposterous, like flying cars, things like that. And then our district AI guidelines, that's been a goal of ours this year. We gave an update on that, but we have since been able to come out with our own AI guidance to our district. And this really helped having Mr. Krishy involved. We've had a group going to AI Circles team, which really looks at AI and its impact. We're doing a lot with AI. Mr. Farrell and I were at the AI conference yesterday, really trying to learn about it so that we could be prepared for it, because it's definitely here. Our AVID program has been something that is definitely been an instructional response, and it's really been taking off. Right? It's now into the high school, 2 years into that. Hopefully the third year in high school will happen next year. And there's definitely using a lot of the AVID strategies in our core curriculum, looking at the math vocabulary tools and specific techniques that come from the AVID program. They've had real-world perspectives. They've had, what do we call them, guest speakers come in about the real world. That's really helped them. And these speakers share, a lot about their lives, about overcoming adversity and sticking on the path. Some other things with the AVID really keep going. Expanding student horizons. You can just kind of look at the boldness there, the fostering discovery, supporting younger students, and future readiness. So supporting younger students, we have the elementary assemblies, been dealing with P2, which we'll talk about in a second. Our AVID students come and talk to those students, and that's great for both the elementary students and for the AVID students. It's like the mentee, mentor, it really benefits both when doing that. P2 is something that we really have taken a shine to, and we're doing very well. So our elementary schools were recognized this year with the Green Shield recognition, which not many schools have in our country. So that just means that Nassau and Hagen are doing this with fidelity and doing it in such a way that it's been recognized nationally. So that's a really cool status to have. And then if you look at some of the items with P2, fostering relationships, tailored approach at Todd, they've continually elevated and adapted the P2 curriculum. I think we'll hear a little bit about that later with Mr. Doherty, and talking about restorative practice also, so I'll save that. Student mentorship, just talking about that a little bit with the students presenting, but also there's high school mentors that come to elementary schools, which have been great. But just a core philosophy, that other people matter, routinely recognizing students who put virtues like integrity, optimism, teamwork, and humility into action. We've seen this as been a tremendous success. This really came about when we came out of COVID, and a lot of we went away from school a little bit. We really needed to come up with something to really help, our student body, embrace these virtues, because we really weren't social for a little while. Another item that really expanded out of P2, but really came from the anxious generation, that was a goal we had last year, was really the Let Grow experience. And I know that our elementaries have talked a lot about this, but Spack and Keough has partnered with Let Grow, an international organization that encourages a play-based over a screen-based childhood. We've talked about this, the kind of change where our childhood of people sitting up here was more of a play-based, and our students were more of a screen-based. So we're really trying to counteract the effects of that. And there's a lot of research on that now. The board had that book, really talked about the anxious generation. This is another thing that we're very happy to do. So we did this, and we did it so well, and I thank our principals will really lead this. We were declared a lighthouse district recently, which is only a handful of in the United States are lighthouse. I don't think there's any lighthouse in districts. There's just lighthouse some schools. So another kind of feather in our cap of how we're doing these things. We're doing them with fidelity, where we're really getting recognized. And over here at the bottom right is actually something that was in the Let Grow newsletter where they spotlighted Spack and Kill, about how we're using the Let Grow experience. And the top is just where the students are doing something at home on their own, and they come in and they write it on a leaf, and it goes on the tree that's in each of the elementary schools. So that's been really cool. Other points of success, Niche continues to rank Spack and Kill as the #1 school district in Dutchess County and the best place to live in Dutchess County. So that's pretty cool. Everyone in the audience lives here. And the best place to teach. A few teachers here. So that's a testament to our teachers, right? Because they make it the best place to teach, and they make it really the best place to come and learn. So we appreciate that, and our administrators. The district is ranked in the top 4% by Niche. 25-26 best high school ratings. U.S. News ranks Spack and Kill in the top 6 nationally. Also named Hagen Elementary a best elementary school, and Todd a best middle school. They don't rank Nassau, so they're not able to be ranked because of the age of the students. So we won't leave out Nassau. I know Mr. Lynch back there is getting upset. The New York State Board of Regents has named Spack and Kill an exemplary high-performing school. This was the blue ribbon experience that we went through. This is an amazing experience. We were one of 19 schools that qualified for this honor. A board of regent, we always hear about the board of regents. They're actually people. The regent actually came to and visited us, and came and saw a couple of our schools, but definitely toured the high school. That was an amazing visit. Claire, were you part of that? Yeah. That was pretty cool. So that's a big thing, right? So this is, I think we're the only high school ever in Dutchess County to get this award, and this is actually the second time we got it. We're probably one of only 1 or 2 schools ever to get it, so we're definitely proud of that. And our graduation rate, for 24-25 was #1 in Dutchess County. So things to be proud of, right? We're proud of this stuff. Some other district success. The district is a 14-year winner of the Utica National Safety Award. Since 2012, it's been a best community for music. Our athletics department, we won the School of Excellence Award for the past 10 years. This is awesome stuff. Our girls team won Section 9 Small School Championship, and the boys team just won the Mahal like a week or 2 ago. In physical education classes, over 240 students in grades 11 and 12 have been certified with CPR, AED. That's awesome. The Odyssey of the Mind teams have qualified for the World Finals. That's just in, right? It just happened. We're still talking about that. Music, 32 students participated in NYSSBA. Todd won first place in the 8th grade division of the math tournament, and 7th and 8th grade band and orchestra took first place in the Music in the Parks, which is just an awesome. That's probably the one with the Panda Bears. So all that, and Niche saying that we're a great place to live and come to school. A lot of that is you can see through the real estate data. Some of the data is up there. If you just look at the lower right, we reach out to a local realtor to kind of give us her perspective on not just home sales in the county, but home sales in Spack and Kill. What does it look like against the county? Generally speaking, each house that goes on the market in Spack and Kill ends up with multiple offers and a fierce competition. Overall, during the 10-year period reflected in the report on the left, home price in Spack and Kill consistently increased at a higher rate than in the county, right? That's a testament to wanting to be here at Spack and Kill. Some of our other sources of revenue, this is our main source, this has been working out very well, is we have a non-resident tuition program, and we've had near 50 students now involved in that, and you could look there of how much money that has provided for the district, which helps out a lot, and the kids have been great. So we started talking about numbers, so now I get into it. This is the proposed budget for the year. We've seen this before, last board meeting, but this is here it is again. So you could look at the proposed budget for 26-27, roughly 61 million, 57 million last year, with an increase of just under 4 million. And then the tax levy for this year is little over 34 million, and last year it was 33.6. So the increase in the tax levy is little under 600,000, or 1.75%. Same numbers as last time we were here, but just bringing them back up. So what are some considerations? These are the considerations to the budget. This is the main stuff that Val and I and us have to consider when putting the budget together. Again, this is a repeat from last week, but you can look at salaries are a big piece of the budget. Our BOCES services, we did have BOCES come and present to us, tell us a little about those services. Transportation, special ed tuition, health insurance, debt service, and we're looking to replace one facilities vehicle. Some more additional instructional staff. We're looking to add a school psychologist this year. It's this way each building will have one. Right now, 2 buildings have to share. So that's been a goal of ours, to have a social worker and a psychologist in each building to meet the needs of our students. Adjustments to salaries that we've had to do over the past few years in dealing with minimum wage increases. Replacing older damaged facilities, classroom maintenance, instructional needs, and technology. Technology always seems to change. Our software subscriptions go up as that becomes more and more part of our everyday lives. This is the vehicle we're proposing to purchase, and the cost about $75,000 for the facilities vehicle. Some of the key cost budget drivers. This is what drives virtually 85% of the budget we're voting on. Is sort of already decided. Where we have our salaries, health insurance, BOCES, retirement, and debt service. So out of the $61 million for the total budget, 51 million of that is all tied up in these budget drivers. We always have to display the budget as part of a three-part budget, so administrative, program, and capital, with the bulk of that really coming from the program. That's the stuff, for the students. Salaries and benefits for the teachers, and textbooks, and all the materials used to educate our students. So this is the proposed tax levy in a nutshell, right, in this one. So that we're proposing, what we could have proposed is 34,357,519, which would have increased, just under 700,000, which would have been over 2%. We're going to propose something a little bit less, and we're going to go at a 1.7%, and a tax levy increase of 589,150. And that goes back with our philosophy of trying not to go all the way to the top, but don't want to go too low where we have these major fluctuations in other years. We also need to be aware of, and you've seen this also already, but be aware of a contingency budget, which would happen if the budget does not succeed when voted on. And you could look here at what we have to have one. We could choose to have a revote, or we could choose to adopt a contingency budget. If the budget is defeated twice, then we must adopt a contingency budget. And we could look at what that would look like. So at the top is what we just reviewed already, the proposed budget, tax levy, and then the amount. If we need to go to a contingency budget, you can see the required reductions are to equipment, transfer to other funds, and supplies, for that total reduction. So then our contingency budget would be 60,553,641 versus the 61 amount. You look at it and you're like, that's pretty darn close. That's because of the budget that we put together is not too far from contingency. I can't believe we're already on 3 dates on this. Remember we put this up and it was like full. So at our April 14th meeting, which is our next meeting, correct? The board will look to adopt the budget. And then we'll have our required public hearing on the 5th, and May 19th is our budget vote. And that's a vote for a budget and vote for a trustee seat. I feel like Val always says that all that information is available through Ms. Barbieri and is on our website if anyone's looking to run for the trustee seat. And all of it you could get by clicking on this. I believe this is already posted, this PowerPoint. Yes, or it's in the board docs?
It's in board docs.
Yes.
And it will be posted.
And it will be on our website. You can just click on that and get all of this, for the public at home. Any questions?
I don't know, a question, but more a comment. Appreciate all the work that goes in to the preparations budget. We all know, but it warrants, repeated emphasis, that a lot of work goes into the preparation of the budget over many months. And so appreciate the hard work that's gone into this and the research. Appreciate as well the responsibility of, proposing a budget that is prudent, I think, meets our obligations, but maintains, a reasonable increase, which has been our trajectory over the last number of years. I know from attending Dutchess County School Board Association meetings that a lot of local districts are concerned, about rising costs and more talk every year, and especially a good bit of talk this year at those meetings about the viability of the 2% cap. A lot of districts are really starting to look with real concern at being able to maintain, an increase of 2% or less. And perhaps some districts are going to have to get to a point soon of going beyond that, proposing budgets beyond that. So I think we've done a really responsible job in our district of holding costs down as much as possible while maintaining the educational program. So I appreciate the work that's gone into it, and I really support the budget in that respect.
Thank you. I think there's a couple districts in our county that might have to go above their cap. At least that's what they indicated. We're not there yet, and we hope not to, but there's definitely a lot of things that cost a lot, and we're trying to balance it all. So thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. That brings us to 6.02, elementary and secondary academic audit.
We'll lead off with the elementary. Mr. Lewis is home, so.
See if I can. All right, good evening, everyone. I do recognize that I am the first not of four to present tonight. I hear Mr. Merrill is going to have a guest appearance for part of the elementary data, so I'll leave some extra time for him. But just a quick reminder, I think I say this every year, but at Nassau we have one norm referenced assessment that every kindergarten, first grader, and second grader takes. It's both norm referenced and criterion referenced, so my entire presentation will be around the iReady assessment, which we switched to iReady about 5 years ago. It used to be called MAPS or NWEA. Just another reminder that all of the data that is shown up here, not just for my presentation, but also for Hagen, will be based off of last year. All right, so the first slide is a reading slide, and that is all of our K-5 data in reading compared to the New York State average and the national average. And if you look at that, it shows that 50% of students in New York, which is hundreds of thousands of students, are proficient or were proficient in the spring of last year, compared to 71% in SPAC and Kill. And then we broke it down by grade level. Again, the combined green is on grade level, so the dark green is actually on or above grade level, and the light green is early on grade level. And just to look at one of those, if you look at the 3 bars over the right, just for a frame of reference, you see a 2, that's second grade, and the green bars all the way to the right, it says district and 99 students. So that just means that 99 second graders took the assessment last year. 47% of them were mid or above grade level. 27% of them were early grade level, for a total of 74%, compared to that middle bar, which is New York State, for a total of 56%. So now we're going to shift a little bit to growth totals, which is, so growth, Dr. Fanuelli talks a lot about the growth mindset, not just in staff, but also our students. So we really try to talk about, hey, wherever you start, it's all about improvement. So this shows all of our K-5 students in reading last year from the fall, which is the bar to the left, and the spring is the bar to the right. So that just shows the change in proficiencies for all of our students. I think that total number, K-5, is 618. Once again, it's broken down by grade level. Similar trends in each grade level, so I won't spend too much time there. And this part's really interesting. So this is what they call criterion referenced data. So basically there is a standard for each domain that is an average all across the country. And the bars up top breaks the reading domains down kind of in the same idea. So kind of that the striped green is on or above. The green is at the start of grade level. And I think really the big trend here, and this is not a surprise because it's really the focus of K2 instruction. I like to think of the top 3 domains: phonological awareness, phonics, high frequency words. Those are kind of the domains of learning to read, if you will, and that's one of our biggest jobs, obviously, at primary. And if you just compare those 3 domains up top compared to the bottom 2, which are vocabulary and comprehension, we certainly spend time on vocabulary and comprehending, but those are more, obviously you can't comprehend what you read if you can't read. So those are typically, stressed more at the older grades. The bottom part where you see some blue bars, this is something that we spend a lot of time on because we want to make sure that all of our students are learning, regardless if they start the year as the lowest student in the grade level or the highest grade level. And that kind of goes with another one of Dr. Fanuelli's taglines of meet students where they're at. So if you look at those 3 bars over to the left-hand side, our goal is to always be at 100% or above for each subgroup. So like that bottom blue bar, those are all students that started the year 2 or more grade levels below. If you look at that top left blue bar, those are our students that started the year above grade level or at grade level. So if you look at all 4 of those bars to the left, all 4 of those groups are above 100%, which we're really, really proud of. All right, shifting over to math. It's the same setup, so I'm going to go through kind of the numbers, but the setup is the same. So the first slide is K-5 data. This is proficiency. SPAC and Kill's the bar to the right. New York's in the middle. And the national norm is to the left. And again, just when you think about numbers, SPAC and Kill had 629 students take it last spring. New York has hundreds of thousands. Nationally, there are millions. All right, so this is the breakdown with proficiency K through 2. Couple things that just we always pay attention. You know, when you look at the bars, so if you look at the district bars, there are 3 of them. One for kindergarten, one for first grade, one for second grade. And if you look at it quickly, it looks like, wow, kindergarten is outperforming first grade and second grade, which is not true if you compare it to the actual averages. So what we make sure that we pay attention to is either know that 29% in second grade is lower than the 51% in, let's say, kindergarten. We are comparing it to the national averages and not necessarily to other grade levels. So if you look at all 3, they are higher than the averages. Once again, this is the growth numbers for the entire district in math, where we were at 20% in the fall, and we were 66% last spring, so that's a nice improvement. And this is the breakdown just quickly by grade level. And then the domains are very different than reading. So you have numbers and operations, algebraic thinking, measurement and data, and geometry. I know Mr. D'Souza and I talk at board meetings about our data chats, but it's really fascinating. Math is such a sequential subject that the mid-year data, if you were to see the mid-year data, so right here you can see the green bars are very similar. If you look at this data in the middle of the year, measurement and data is over to the left. Geometry is over to the left simply because it hasn't been taught. So this is where it should be for the springtime. All right, so some takeaways based off of all the data. Number 1, Nassau students continue to outpace the state and national averages, both in performance and growth. It has been a trend that both our reading proficiency and growth has been higher than math, which is interesting. I know when I first started in SPAC and Kill, before we did iReady, our New York State scores were actually higher in math. So this is Mr. D'Souza will get to the reading part, but it's been nice to see some of the reading data kind of trickle up. Another general trend is our lowest performing students have demonstrated the highest rate of growth across all subgroups, and that's in both reading and math. And based off of the targeted instruction through AIS, that's the way that it is supposed to be, so that they can kind of catch up to the grade level. Another thing that it has been nice to see it kind of pay dividends, really beginning with Dr. Mulford and the special ed department. All of our teachers are trained in a 5-day intensive program for OG, Orton Gillingham. And that's kind of the science reading before science of reading was a thing. And we think that has had a really great impact on our data. And then the last one, which it's a tricky one. And you know, we talk about the anxious generation and decreasing tech. You know, most of our kindergartners don't come to kindergarten with a lot of experience with tech. And I think one of the results, so we think that's a good thing, but one of the results of that is their test-taking skills, if you will, when they're 5. They are very unreliable, and that it is what it is. I sit in all of our data meetings. We had AIS regrouping today, and it is not a surprise when a student is in the 22nd percentile in iReady and they've scored 90% on the past 3, let's say, chapter tests. So that's just so, you know, we've reached out to iReady to get different tricks of the trade with how to get more reliable data there, but I would say we've struggled with that. Some action steps, and again, some of these things listed here are things that we have in play right now because the data that I just presented was from last year. I've mentioned to the board that we have really begun to put some extra focus on math. We have 4 days of training through BOCES. and they are really in a slow and detailed way developing our staff on the New York State numeracy briefs, which just came out. The other thing, which I think has been the plan from the beginning, was to focus on phonics, phonemic awareness, high frequency words. And now that we are starting to every year be higher in those areas, more kids are leaving Nassau able to read. The next level is for us to put more of a focus on vocabulary and comprehension. And then two things that, as you know, we already have in place, and it will be fascinating to see the data next year based off of this year. Two big things. We moved to trimesters, which increased the instructional minutes for all of our students K-5. And we have, I won't go through them all because we've done this several times already, but we've made some significant changes, not just to the structure of the school day in terms of play in the anxious generation, but really we have a very strong parent group that has done some really awesome work with that as well. So that's it for Nassau. Thanks, everyone.
So Stephen Merrill is doing his internship for his admin degree. So one of the authentic tasks that I wanted to bring him in on is presenting the data, because he's a huge part of the 5th grade data, which we're very proud of, and you'll see why in a second. So we're going to start with the state testing data, which is ELA, math, and science. Science has shifted to 5th grade, so we'll certainly talk about the results of that. But I always like to context these scores, no matter good, bad, or indifferent. They're always tweaking the standards, and now with the New York State Portrait of a Graduate, kind of shifting gears to more experiential learning, capstone projects, which we did for the first time last year. It'll be interesting to see where the test kind of goes. They have not mentioned changing that. So something that we still prepare for as we get into testing season coming up after spring break, as we go into April. CBT is now enforced, all 3 grade levels. We've kind of held the line of math is pen and paper or pencil and paper, but that's no longer the case. So all 3 grade levels will be taking the math test online, which can get kind of clunky with using measurement tools on a computer screen, including the extended responses in ELA and typing out. Some of our 3rd graders are still working on their typing skills. They're still working on their handwriting. So for them, typing out an extended response is a little bit of a laborious task. Cut scores and scales change from year to year, so you never know kind of where that mark's going to be based on the whole state and how they do. Testing opt-out rates vary from year to year. We're pretty good at Hagen, but as the trend is, and I'm sure Mr. Doherty will talk about it, as the grade level go up, so do the opt-out rates. But we were pretty strong with that. This was the first year I kind of felt like CBT played a part in getting us the results quicker. Usually we don't get the results back until October, and at that point, everyone's moved on to the next year, next cohort. So what does the testing data actually mean? We did get it over the summer, which gave me a great kind of opening faculty meeting in September to talk about our data. We were able to invite, and I'll talk about this later too, we were able to invite BOCES in to kind of analyze into a deeper dive our data. And this is the 2nd year of the science tests, which we have found, and Mr. Merrill can speak to, has really upped in reading level. So we do have some struggling readers in 5th grade, but the test level, we kind of consider it 8th grade reading level with a lot of long documents and science experiment stuff. So they've kind of taken the hands-off portion of the test away. If you remember, like going in the gym and measuring things, that's no longer a part of the test. It's a lot more reading-based for the scores. So, and I will say before he goes into the data, this is my 5th year at Hagen. When I came in, one of the big things was we kind of set the trend for math in Dutchess County, but ELA we were always kind of middle or in the upper top 5, but not the top or not not number 2. We were always kind of questioning where is that area of focus and how do we get our ELA scores up. And I think there's a lot of factors to why we saw such a huge jump this year in our ELA scores, and I'll let him kind of take over there.
So thank you for having me. So for math, when you look at us grades 3, 4, 5, grade 3 we were able to test about 93%, grade 4 95, and then grade 5 78. So that trend that Mr. D'Souza talked about in terms of the scores, participation rates going down as the grade levels go up, we saw that there. The blue is the Spack and Kill bar, the red is where we are as Dutchess County, and then the yellow is New York State. So you can see in math we are outperforming both the county and the state. And the bars represent the amount of students that scored a level 3 or a level 4 on the exam, which represents proficiency in that area. For ELA, grade 3 we tested 92%, grade 4 we tested 95%, and then grade 5 we tested 85%. In grade 3 we ranked 2 within the county and the state. Again, you can see that the bars, we are outperforming both the county and the state in ELA. And then this is a chart from last year. So the blue is the ELA of 24, the red is the ELA of 25. And I know Mr. Lynch and Mr. D'Souza kind of spoke about the OG approach, back to the science of reading. But also another change was the adoption of into reading and really rowing you use the metaphor of rowing a boat and kind of using a different oar to get there. And so now with the adoption of into reading universal, every teacher is kind of using the same language within their classroom. So every student is getting the same experience. So within that, this year we saw a really big increase in our proficiency levels for grades 3, 4, and 5 in ELA. And then the science test, like Mr. D'Souza said, and I teach 5th grade, it is a heavy reading exam. I would argue that it's actually harder than the ELA exam that the kids get. It was the first year it came out an 8th grade readability level. So the students may have known the answer in terms of the science content, but they weren't able to digest the passage. I know last year as it improved, the state continues to tweak it. So the first year we gave the test, it did not look the same as when we gave it last year. But as you can see that we're still outperforming both Dutchess County and New York State. And then there's where it was from science of 24, the first year that the test was given, to last year.
So I'm really proud and a testament to the teachers for growing our ELA scores. 5th grade was ranked number 1 in science, math, and ELA. So that really just shows your K-5 experience kind of comes full circle in 5th, which is a great testament to the teachers and our building. We do have some iReady data, kind of similar to how Mr. Lynch presented it, but I just wanted to kind of give you a picture of what it looks like in Hagen 3, 4, and 5. So this is how they grew in reading over the span of the fall to the spring of last year. Really what you want to see is the greens get bigger and the reds get smaller, and that's what we see on all 3 grade levels. And that really just shows that the kids are growing and getting more comfortable with the material as the year goes on. And this is, like Mr. Lynch presented, the national New York norm data, and then again our district data, but Hagen specific 3, 4, and 5 are the last bar on the right. And you can see we're outpacing the New York and national norms in terms of the amount of kids on and above grade level, and then lower amount of kids below that grade level. This is math. So again, sometimes it's a little scary for teachers in the beginning of the year when they give the fall assessment to only have 14% of the grade on grade level in math, but they're getting tested on things that they haven't even seen yet. So it's it's actually normal to see such a huge yellow block like that in the fall, because they're getting tested on things in 3rd grade that they haven't been taught. So it's nice to see that bar go shrinking from 52% to 26%, and a lot of them jump into the green in all 3 grade levels in math. And again, same idea, comparing us to New York and the national data for iReady, we are definitely doing well. So some of the takeaways, we were very, very thankful. Math continues to be a strength. It's not like we took a sharp rise in ELA and math dipped. We stayed pretty consistent in math. And we do like that a large pool of Hagen students participate in the testing. gives us a really authentic picture and lens into what we can do. And again, as Mr. Merrill was kind of referring to, our ELA took a huge jump. I think a part of that, as he mentioned, is the into reading vertical alignment. We're getting kids from Nassau who have done 3 years of into reading and now into our second year of into reading at Hagen. They're getting the same experience and they're getting the same language, and it really gears towards those extended responses, which we've struggled with in the past. That's kind of been our dipping point. So we will continue to work in that area. We do data chats with each individual teacher, but the really cool thing is BOCES came and did a really deep dive into each grade level. They met with each grade level on the New York State testing data and really took a look at some of the questions in multiple choice or extended responses that we struggled with, and some where we outpaced even some of the top schools in the state. And really, the best part of that is the conversation that happens with the teachers afterwards, because they're really kind of almost doing an autopsy on the year of, oh yeah, that's not something we really focused on as much. Maybe we need to kind of, really pay attention to that. And that sets them off for a great pace this year. And I'm really excited to see what our data is as we get into testing season. And there's the first implementation of into reading. This is our second year, so I'm sure that will continue to have a positive impact. The numeracy briefs and fact fluency are something that we're continuing to work on in our math. And then the Let Grow experience. I think that's a huge factor to kids not only getting that extra recess in our master schedule, but really kind of finding that independent voice, and they can use that to channel their academics as well. So that's elementary. Thank you. I'll pass the baton. You can wait.
Yeah, Dan, I think they are.
Can only stay.
We can pause for a second. Mr. Lewis, so they're not leaving on your turn this time, so. Thank you, Science Research.
Well, good evening, everybody, and as always, thank you for having us do this report, to do our reports that here at the board of that meeting. Just to get started, kind of a lot of things that Clinton talked about, Mr. Sousa, in terms of the testing, the 3-8 testing, in terms of the computer-based testing, changing the cut scores, refusals, all those things kind of apply to Todd as well. We deal with those things. We also want to point out, when I go through the numbers, because of the amount of students that take tests, a lot of numbers can change just with a few students. So I just want to just kind of be aware of that. You're going to see when we look at the comparison rates, pretty much all the rates are kind of like within 5% of what they've been, which is consistently doing well. And they've continued to do that, except in earth science and algebra, which went up a little more than that. But again, there's less students who take those tests, so they can influence the scores very easily. So to look, we're going to start off with the ELA results. And the first thing you'll see on the left, it goes by grade. On the left, you're going to see that refusal rate, which has been dropping. It's starting to get almost in, 6th grade is elementary school level, so because the elementary levels are pretty low, we're getting down there too. You can see the refusal rates are under 20 in both 6th and 7th grade, which is good. But it still means that 1 out of 5 students did not take the exam, and we don't have those results. So, and if you look at our results, you'll see where we are in terms of students who are achieving 3 or 4. Those percentages, 65%, 68%, 66%. Last year they were 62, 63, 68, so pretty consistent. I don't have the I don't have the comparisons within the district, within the county, but they're similar to Hagen. They're either near the top or the middle. They can kind of fluctuate. The reason why I don't go too much with this is because of the refusals and because of, like I said, with small numbers, things can change easily, but it's consistent. We're consistently doing well, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think that is in some of the later slides. Looking at the math results, again, you'll see the refusal rates go up a little bit. The math test is done after the ELA test, but we keep encouraging all students to take it. We want all students to take the test so we get a better picture of what we're looking at. And you can see the results compared to ELA. They went down a little bit in some of the, at the level of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. 7th grade was pretty similar. Rates are still, we're doing very well year to year and within the county. And you'll see the science results. We had 3 out of 4 students at the 3 to 4 level at 76%. Last year we were at 72%. So again, kind of very similar to prior years. Looking at the algebra and earth science mastery, and this is where, again, because the N is so small, because we have only 40 to 50 students taking it, it doesn't take too many students one way or another to make those scores shift, and this year, you know, they shifted up. So last year we had 43% mastery, this year we have 57. That was the second administration of the new Algebra Regents exam. Earth Science, last year 60% got mastery, and this is mastery, so this is 85 and above level. And last year it was 60%, this year it was 73%. Excuse me, so 2024 was 60 and last year was 73%. This year is, last year was the last administration of the old Earth Science Regents, so this is going to be the new Earth and Space Science Regents this year. So we will see what happens with that. We haven't seen the tests. You know, they've put out samples, but we will see what that looks like in June for our students. So this is, to me, the most important part of my presentation, which is why I think our results continue to be good and why I think Todd Middle School is a great middle school. And that has to do with all the different programs we do. I want to say that everything you see up here is due to a couple groups of people. One is the people in this school, which are the teachers, counselors, sports staff, TAs, everybody. People who, custodians, food service workers, bus drivers, everybody involved, even though the teachers might be the ones, say, running, say, these clubs and activities, say, or whatever I'm going to talk about, but it's really everybody in here. And it is a real community. And while the community isn't, while we're not necessarily all talking about and thinking about, say, math and science tests in April every year, that's what's going on though. That's what it's feeding. Because by feeding the students, literally and figuratively, they're ready for the test and they're prepared for the test. So just to go through some of these, the other two groups, well, another big group is the students, which we have amazing, resilient students. And they are at middle school, as everybody probably knows and remembers, or if you had, when you had middle school students, you know that middle school is a challenging time. And we have an amazing middle school, and the students have a lot to do. Students have the most to do with it. There's more of them than anybody else in the building, and they're great human beings, and we appreciate what they bring. And along with them is all the parents and the caregivers, because you know, those kinds of things that happen when they leave us has a lot to do with what happens when they're back here. And again, all those things feed into things like, you know, really good test results. And some of these we've talked about already. I know Dr. Fanuelli's talked about, so I'll just kind of touch on real quick. Positivity Project, which we've been doing for a number of years. We added a Mindfulness Monday a couple years ago. So we basically have 2 opportunities a week where the whole school gets together, kind of in an assembly. It's done through Google Meet, but it's been a really effective tool that came out of the Positivity Project. Both the virtual and the Mindfulness Mondays have been really things that have really helped. And the P2 curriculum is great. I mean, the students now have been doing it by the time, our 8th graders have been doing it for like 5 years. And again, some middle school students might be, they'll be like, oh, we're gonna talk about, whatever it is, we've been talking about this for so long. But they roll with it because they know that it's good for them. And we have a great staff who puts in the time and the work to deliver it. Part of that is also behavior discipline reflections. So we kind of bring P2 not just for what we do while doing P2 for the 12 minutes a day, but we try to embed it in. So if a student is doing something that requires a discipline, we have them reflect. They fill out a form. They talk about what P2 traits that might have helped them, or could help them in the future, those kinds of things. Also, we talk about other people matter in terms of those things. So we have the students look at how are my actions affecting other people? And it's those simple things that, you would never think, well, how's that going to help them, with their 8th grade science test? But my experience and what I've seen, I think it does. I think those things all affect what a student brings when they sit for that test. Our music and sports, which we've talked about, I mean, we've got an amazing program for the size of our school. We do a great job. Everybody sees that at the concerts, but I get to see it all throughout the day, and I get to hear it all throughout the day. And but those things like the music, you wouldn't think music would help you with math or ELA or in science, but it does. And we know that all of these subjects all the subjects at Todd, not just the math and science and English, but every subject is doing literacy and doing numeration and helping support that. Clubs and activities, of course, you would think these are the things that happen after school, but these are vital for students to be connected. Those are run by dedicated teachers who do it for the love of the kids and for the love of what they do, and they do an amazing job. And again, everybody who's here to support them. Honor Key, that's a great program. The Honor Key kids it's our version of National Junior Honor Society. Our Honor Key kids do great things. They do things in the community. They also tutor students here. We have a homework helper 2 days a week, and we have Honor Key kids come to that. Our counseling department does an amazing job on a middle school level. That's really important. Those are those things you're not going to see, but I know when we see some of these students' results, we'll go, the teachers did a great job, but it was that connection with the counselor that got that student to sit through that test for the second day. Because sometimes they make it good through the first day, and they got to sit through the second day. It's a lot to ask for a 12-year-old who knows that there's some students who are not even taking the test in another room in a building. That's asking a lot of a 12-year-old. And they sit through it, and that has to do with our counseling department and our teachers. And then, DASA, Title IX, cell phone policy. Oops, sorry, we got 2 cell phone policies, cell phone. But we, those things that we do of making sure that students feel safe, making sure that students understand how to be in a middle school, and those things need to be explicitly taught to students, and we do. It can easily be like, do we really need to talk about the Dignity Act? Do we need to talk about those things? And the answer is yes. We need to talk about them, and we do. And then we are looking in for next year. The Let Grow experience that they've been really successful down at the elementary school. We're looking to possibly bring that into next year for grades 6 and 7, and then we'll see down the road. But we're looking into doing that for next year. We're going to try to do a pilot for next year with that. So that's all SEL, that's social emotional support. Then in terms of academic support, first thing is on the left is teacher and student resilience. I didn't really think about resilience that much until the pandemic, but since the pandemic, that's something I keep an eye on, and the student and teacher resilience, and really it's the whole staff coming back from things, being able to just keep showing up. Everybody, in middle school, things that don't seem like a challenge to an adult is a real challenge for a middle school student. And sometimes students need to be resilient like day after day because they're having a tough time, whether it's with a friend group or whatever it is. And, their resilience shows, and we know that the support they get at home and the support that they get here helps with that. Attendance, our students come to school. We have Mr. Cormier follows up with students. We meet periodically to go over. We send letters home. We remind parents. Of course, at the middle school level, if there's an attendance and a tardy issue, it really has to do with the caregiver, not the student. So we have to make sure that the caregiver knows, hey, the student needs to be here. We do cross-curricular work in ELA, math, and science. And this is another group that I forgot to mention earlier, which is all of you and the district office and the Board of Ed, because that cross-curricular work are things that we do, like summer work, where we pay our teachers to come and do work over the summer. And that's like a really important, great thing, because that's a time where you can really reflect and get work done. You know, during the school year, you know, a lot that we focus on is what right in front of us. So having that, the fact that you think that that's important enough that you're willing to pay teachers to do that work is really important. We have our extra help from 2:30 to 3. That's a great part of a teacher's day. We do that every day. We have homework helper in this room every day. So students know that if they need help, that it's available. The vertical work we talked about with the summer work. Our special education department that Dr. Mulford is the leader of is an amazing department. They do an outstanding job. The resources that our teachers have, both for them but also within them, is great. So I really appreciate everything that they do. Our E&L department is wonderful. Those students in another district, because there's not, we don't have a ton of those students, they would not be serviced the way they are. And that might not even be something, depending on what that is, that it might even, whether it shows up on a state test or not, I can't tell you for sure, but I can tell you this, that the students and their families appreciate what we do. Dr. Fanuele talked about the AVID program, and the AVID program has been just a wonderful thing, not only for the students in the elective class, but the beauty of AVID is that it's professional development for the whole staff. So what the AVID teachers do and what the AVID students, what they see, what other teachers see AVID students doing, they say, oh, what's that student doing? And we offer professional development. Both Mr. Lewis and I have done professional development with our whole staff, with AVID teachers, which has been really great. So the AVID program is one of those things that kind of branches out into everything. Our AIS is a really important piece. That is where we are really looking at, students who, and this is kind of digging more into sort of things that you can definitely see reflected in the state results, that we are really looking at students who we know, or there's some gaps in where they are, and we want to fill those gaps. We do it with, specific ELA and math instruction, but we also do study skills, which is kind of a more umbrella and might help out multiple classes, maybe not just specific skills, but again, all of those reach the state exams. And multisensory reading, we have that. Mr. DeSouza talked about the training that Dr. Mulford has provided for our teachers. That training comes up to the middle school as well. So all of our special ed teachers and many of our other teachers have been trained. And then finally, we have MTSS, which used to be called RTI. So we have mentors in that program too. So we get together, and kind of every school does this. We get together, we look at students that we know need extra help. We talk about what to do with them. Many times those talks aren't necessarily about, did they remember to carry the one on a math problem? It is about, hey, how are we going to make that student feel confident about themselves, or how are we going to, whatever that is. There's a lot going on besides just sort of what you see kind of on taking a test. And we, this year, iReady, which has been very successful down at the elementary schools for a number of years, we are piloting it currently with our AIS math. So we are currently using iReady. So this is the first time that we've had that up at the middle school level. And they recently, just last year, changed, because part of the work that iReady does is they provide, pads for learning, and those pads for the middle school student were like kind of elementary-ish, and students weren't taken seriously. That's what the iReady people were telling us. But they changed it for this year, so this was our first cohort of students that are using it. So we're going to track that result. The plan is to continue it next year in AIS math and to pilot it in AIS ELA for next year. So we're going to look at continuing that, and then we'll track those results. And again, all the things I'm talking about, I just want to just say that it is really about the whole community coming together to promote the students' self-efficacy and their agency. When students feel that they have agency and they have say, and this is the time where it begins, and it just extends into high school. So we're in the middle point. I appreciate all the things that the elementary have done to prepare the students for me, and then I hope that when I send them up to Mr. Lewis up at the high school, that they're in a place where they can do the growth that they need for high school and beyond.
Quick question. I know this is a perennial issue, but what's your current thinking on the why the dropout rates, the refusal rates for the testing, increase into the 8th grade? Is it just fatigue, ennui, on the part of the students, or have you seen any other factors that I know it's been nothing new, but
I think it's it is. And it happens mostly. It happens more in math because we've done the ELA.
that's the second day.
Yeah, well, it's the second. It's the second whole. It's the second. Like they do English for 2 days, and then like 2 weeks later they do math. Now one of the things that we changed was starting last year, and we'll be doing this year, that the opt-out room is the person who runs the opt-out room is me. So we started me in there last year. So we are hoping that word will get out like, well, you don't want to refuse. If you refuse, you got to sit with Mr. Daugherty for 2.5 hours. You know what I mean? So we did that last year, and so we'll see if that, that's one of the things we're working on. One of the questions that always comes up is, we don't really, I don't talk a lot. My letter to the parents is very general. I don't try to, if people can refuse for reason, that people refuse for the reasons that they want to refuse, and we respect that. But we know that there probably are some middle school students whose parents, might not, if they may be persuaded if I was to talk to them more, and we do that. We'll have students. Anytime we have a refusal, we make sure we kind of follow up. But I think that's a piece of it. But the rates have been going down.
Yeah, no, I saw that.
Yep.
Just curious that they, 8th grade is always the highest.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's just they're a little bit more fatigued and jaded by that.
They're fatigued and they're older. Basically they're older and they can convince their parents. And then we get into a thing where, we don't want to push it too much.
Right.
So we just say, we respect your decision. And the other thing is, though, and again, this kind of goes back to these results, is, so say we have a student that wants to refuse, right? I talk to the parent. So then what do we think is going to happen when he sits for, or she sits for a test? That could be a 3 or a 4 that just turned into a 1.
Yeah.
You're not going to know. You're just going to see that instead of it being 65%, it's 63%.
Right.
Those are the things we're talking about, which is why I try to kind of, talk about this kind of with that we consistently do well, and kind of that's where I don't want to talk too much either way, because those things get affected by a lot of things.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. I know I'm last, so I'm going to try to be concise, but
Yeah, but you still have a few students here, so they all didn't leave.
yeah, appreciate it. Thank you. It's a
Extra
long
credit,
night. It's a
extra
long
credit
night.
for those, Mr. Gerard.
It's a long night. So thank you for having me. I'm going to just kind of start off talking about our school profile. I did do this presentation for any community members too that might be looking at the board docs so that they can kind of peruse it. So I'm not going to go through every single thing on the slide, but starting off with the school profile. shift to our academic program and enrollments. Then we'll go to performance markers, and I'll finish off talking a little bit about Portrait of a Graduate and where we are. All right, so really just a takeaway from this would be, for me, that last piece in academics, the last line. We don't just prioritize test scores, we emphasize critical thinking, intellectual curiosity, and a well-rounded foundation. And I'm really proud of what Spack and Kill does for that well-rounded piece. I really think what we do well, and we focus on the whole child. And we don't, sure, there's schools that have a plethora of different programs in their schools, but they don't always do it well. And what we do at our school, we put 100% into every program that we have, and I think that is a direct reason why our performances are trend to be so high. So as far as clubs and activities, we audit every year our clubs and activities, and we look at what's running, how often we meet, to kind of decide, like, we don't want to oversaturate what our school offers. We want to really make sure that the clubs that we're offering activities have value and meaning, and we can have kids attend it. And so is a really focus this year of what clubs we offer and why. Science Olympiad, math team, mock trial are just some of them. We have esports still running. Spack on Stage, do you want to do a quick plug? Mean Girls on the 17th and 18th and 19th of April. Youth Against Racism, Student Government, our egg hunt will be this Saturday, so hopefully we'll see all the little kiddos there for the egg hunt. GSA, SPAC News, Ski Club, Leo, NHS, those are like some of the core groups that really all of our students take advantage of, on top of a plethora of other clubs and activities. Our French club, also, do you want to plug them? I believe Claire's going on Thursday. So our French and our world language classes are going to France on Thursday. So they're very excited for that over spring break. We've done that every year. It's a great opportunity for these students to attend that, and safe travels.
They were pretty excited. Mr. Lewis and I walked into the French class today, and they were excited about going.
Yeah.
Are you excited, Claire?
Yes. Just want to spotlight a club, Positivity Club. This is our P2 movement at the high school. We've been running it for a couple years now. Miss Phillips, Miss McGuire, our school social worker, school psychologist, they are the advisors of the club. Just some of our pictures from the Soulmates initiative that we had a couple weeks ago through Jersey Mike's. I would say Positivity P2 in general, I've seen a shift in the last couple of years at the high school. Just overwhelmingly our halls are positive, and sometimes I stand in the halls and I wonder, like, I'm so fortunate to be a leader in a school like this. The students, we're not a utopia, we're not perfect. I tell everybody that we have our issues, but overwhelmingly it is a positive environment. Kids are happy, there's smiles, there's staff that are happy, and this is just one of those initiatives that shows that, just matching up what we're wearing and complimenting each other as we see them when sometimes you don't even know each other, but it's a good opportunity to bring people together. P2 is also in the process of remodeling our counseling center conference room. So you'll see some changes to that. We're going to be doing some painting, adding some new tech in there, really just bringing it up to a modern day conference room rather than just a room where we sit in. And that's where our nerve center is to our MTSS. So I'm really excited to see that, and I'm glad P2 has kind of taken initiative on that and they're running with it. And there'll be some murals in there that they've designed, and hopefully we'll make that a room that continues to echo the point of P2 and to bring positivity there and supports.
For the board, that's usually the room we meet in when we do tours. We have little breakfast in there, and then so we'll see a difference next year on the tour.
You'll see a difference in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the timeline right now. We've got it all running over spring break. They'll be doing some work in there. So, speaking about our counseling staff, so we have 15 one and a half counseling centers, secretaries, 3 school counselors, a school psychologist, a school social worker, a nurse, an SRO. We all work hand in hand in our MTSS committee, multi-tiered support systems, which consists of the principal, assistant principal, all the counseling center staffs, our athletic director, and we do a referral system from our staff. So that's fairly a newer process. We've always had it, but we've really tried to have an initiative this year to bring that to light, and it has been effective. And you saw that at the beginning of the year. The board saw that in our walkthrough. We do that every Friday, without a doubt, and it is, like I said, the nerve center of our school, and where we get the work done and disseminated out to the staff. We work very well with a lot of centers in the community. In that bottom right-hand corner, Astor, United Way, our stabilization center, mobile crisis. I'm not going to list them all, but Charlie Health is fairly new too. That's a new mental health outreach in Poughkeepsie that we've been working with. Nubian Direction too. I'll mention that in a minute, because all this ties into graduation and the story we tell every year that looks different every year based on the students' experiences, their households, and their experience in school. So after hours, we have our 10th period, a staple of what Spackman-Kill offers from 2 to 2:45, our 3 to 5 program, sports activities, academic study hall at the end of the day, and our AVID program. All right, so just this is shifting into our programs, a little snapshot into what we're offering in our engagement. So 35% participation in our music program. 35% of our students in the building are somehow participating in music, chorus, orchestra, band. We have 274 students enrolled in our world languages, 42 students currently, 27 juniors, 15 seniors in our CTI programs. We have an 81% AP exam pass rate. 164 students last year took 353 AP exams. And 81% of those scored a 3 or higher, which is what is required of the student to receive college credit. We've had a lot of conversation about dual enrollments and working with Dutchess Community College versus APs, College Board, different schools. There's a lot, I guess, some like red tape, I guess you would call it, with that. So not every college accepts AP credits, just like not every college accepts Dutchess Community College credits. But we also cannot use SUNY Albany or Marist or other schools prior to going through Dutchess Community College. That's a statewide, I guess, mandate you'd call it, to make sure you focus on the community college that's near you first, before they have first right of refusal, I guess, to enter a college class in the school. So we do have our dual enrollments, 164 students there. Those are just some of our classes there. Participation in government, 97 students. English, 50. AP Bio, I do have all the numbers. Calculus 1 honors dual, we have 17 students. We have pre-calculus dual, public speaking dual, and by dual I mean those are AP classes or DCC classes or honors level. So we combine those two to make sure we're offering a robust program in the school, being a small school. But we do have to have that balance of not offering so much that it's saturated, and then it impacts our budget and all different types of staffing constraints, creating, I don't want to get too deep into scheduling, but if you have in a school like us tons of singletons, you'll have a plethora of courses that can be offered with no students that can take them because there's not enough time in the day, there's not enough staffing, a bunch of different reasons. So a way for us to offer more well-rounded experience and more opportunity for college credit and programming is by combining classes and doing dual enrollments. So that's why we do that. Any questions about that right now? I do want to bring up Miss Upright and Miss Maloney to speak briefly about science research. Just want to spotlight that program. It is a 3-year program. We had Adam Kershid, Angela Liu, and Saeed Hussein here, seniors, that gave a little bit of a teaser of the Science Research Symposium that will be coming up soon, which Ms. Maloney and Ms. Upright will speak to.
Hi, everybody. everybody. Thank you for having us today. Everybody's a little taller than we are. We'd like to just let you know a little bit about science research. It is a 3-year course offered through SUNY Albany. Our students start out as sophomores and continue through their senior year. Their goal is to find an authentic research question and a topic of interest that they choose on their own. And they find a mentor. They have to reach out, trying to find a mentor that is willing to work with them. The mentor has to have a PhD in the field, or the mentor can be a specialist in the field. The students work throughout the school year as well as the summers with the mentor. They often end up working with graduate level students. The goal at the end of the 3 years, they have to produce a research paper, at which time they can choose to participate in several different competitions that are offered, like Regeneron competition. Saeed won, he was a finalist at Regeneron this year, he earned some money doing that, and as well as the school earned some money for his placing. They also compete in the Junior Science Humanities Symposium, and they can compete at any competition that they find that they want to compete in. We offer a symposium every year. This is our 20th year, so that's great. We made it 20 years with science research. It's been a great ride. It really has. I think that's about all I have to say about that. Oh, some soft skills, right? Yeah. So, yeah, sure.
I mean, if you talk about dual enrollment, I think we're doing quadruple. We're talking every soft skill you can speak of. We have our kids emailing professionally, they're calling professionally, they're running their own Zoom calls, coming in with their own plans. They are writing at a college level, presenting at a college level. We're doing presentations in both the poster board form that you saw coming in, but also in slideshow form as well. So we really hope you all can make it on May 28th. Mark it on your calendars, May 28th. We're gonna have Marist Professor Dr. Longani presenting as our keynote this year, and we've also been working with Marist throughout the semester, his capstone class, and our students as well. So we hope you can come find out more.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody have any
And
questions?
those are our beautiful seniors in the center photo as well.
Can you talk quickly about the Marist partnership? Because that's so cool.
So Dr. Lingani, he is one of our students' mentors, and so she bridged the gap and she introduced us to Dr. Lingani. And his class, it's a senior capping class, so out in environmental science. So throughout the semester we've been using Padlet, and our students will present a summary of an article. So they're all reading the same article, the Marist students as well as the Spack&Kill students. And then our students will present a summary of that article, and then the Marist students would come back and critique them on their summary. We moved up to our students presenting to the Marist students their research that they've completed, or some of them just articles that they have read. And then the Marist students have come back and critiqued them. We met yesterday actually in class through Google Meet, and we got to meet the whole class, and they met ours. We're going to visit Marist, bringing all of our students to Marist to see one of their symposiums, and we've invited them all to ours. So that's been we've had a really great experience with that, which will continue next year. So we're already designing and changing up what we're going to do next year. We took a lot of feedback from the students, our students. We haven't heard yet what Marist students' feedback is on the assignment, but our students have given us some feedback as to what they want more of. They really enjoyed it. They love collaborating with one another and providing mentorship to each other. So this working with Marist students really worked out well. A lot of positive comments being made. You think?
Yeah, our goal is to continue to foster basically how to continue to work at a college level. So we're hoping to introduce the sophomores next year a little sooner and do a collaboration with his seniors in how to read a journal article.
Yeah.
it's just amazing, like to have that opportunity, and I thank you too for forging forward with that.
Just want to give like a tangible example of what we deal with budget and how some technology is skyrocketing. So over the past year, we've been working together because the database for science research, which is like the gold standard for any research that happens really anywhere globally, Scientific Nature, Scientific American Nature, went from, what was it, like 2000?
Yes.
It was like $2,000 last year and is over 6,000 now for the same database. And that's just one piece of software, and you can't really run this class without doing that. So it took a lot of work with us to kind of negotiate with the owners of, however that works, the representative for Scientific American, and we worked with them and negotiated a little bit to make sure it kept working. We didn't have to pay that full amount, but it's a struggle, and a lot of these databases and these companies are really increasing their prices, and it's a challenge. So we're glad to continue that, and we're glad that the students have access to it. Another thing with SUNY Albany, because Dutchess Community College doesn't offer a science research program, that's why we are allowed to go to another school, SUNY Albany, and go from there. So, all right, get into the performance markers a little bit. So, it was mentioned earlier in the night, our graduation rate last year was 97%. I'm glad to be part of that. That's a very high graduation rate, and I hope that we can continue to do that. And that is typically our trend, but like I said, every graduation class, every graduate class tells a different story. Our graduation rate from the year prior was 98%, so we dipped a little bit. And that will fluctuate. If you look at years prior to that, which I do have some of that data, you'll see it's gone anywhere from 89% to 98% and anywhere in between. And it's all about the story and what we do with each and every one of those students. Because in a school where there's 110 students roughly in a grade, one student leaving can adjust that percentage. So we don't always lean on looking at those numbers. We look at the story behind it. And I'm proud to say that I could tell, there's the whole MTSS team, teachers in the school, we could tell the story of any of these kids. And oftentimes it is a success story in itself, even if it doesn't mean that there's a graduation across our stage. Some of the other pieces to the graduation, students with disabilities, 2025 graduation rate 93%, 2024 93.8%. And economically disadvantaged, 95% this past year, 92.9% prior to that. For our non-graduate plans, again, I wanted to mention that because we put just as much energy into that, and I'm really proud of what we do with that. We work diligently with families to establish plans, and we really start those conversations before senior year. Typically, it is not a surprise, and we work out what their life looks like after high school if they are not going to walk across the stage. A perfect example would be one of the schools in the city of Poughkeepsie that branches with Dutchess Community College called Nubian Directions. I've had a great relationship with them over the past 7 years. They offer an HSC, high school equivalency diploma course with construction, trade, OSHA certifications in tandem with that. So I've sent a number of students there with support from the families, with excitement from the students, who just kind of look at, where is my life headed, how old will I be when I gain the credits to graduate, and what's the best plan for me to get out there and start supporting myself and being a member of community in the community. And we really work diligently with families and overall have a very positive relationship and outcomes with our students, whether or not they walk across our stage or a different stage. Really proud of that. The adult education, sometimes fifth year status, that makes sense. Sometimes it's a January graduate and August graduate, and it all depends on what their story is. And sometimes it's medical issues. There's a plethora of reasons why these things happen and why our rates trend, but there's something to be proud of in saying that. So some of the trends We've had consistent year-over-year improvements. Our graduation rates have risen steadily from 92, really 89, and I think 2019 was 89, and we've risen and hovered around 98, 97. Hopefully we'll be around there this year too. Success for students with disabilities, significant increase. 2022 we were at 87.5 compared to now 92.9. And rates for economically disadvantaged students climbed to 95.1 by 2025. So just some different analysis of the data rather than just looking at numbers. Regional rankings. So for all students, last year we ranked 1 out of 13. We're in the top 20% in New York State. Students with disabilities, 1 out of 13, top 30%, and economically disadvantaged, 1 out of 13 in Dutchess County, and top 20% in the state. Just kind of dig into the Regents examination results of each exam. So if you kind of peruse through that, there's mastery in 5 of those exams, which I'll talk about in a minute, and 83, 84, 84% Algebra 1, Chemistry, Geometry. I think that's a trend too with all the other schools, math and science. We have to focus on that. We have to kind of dig down into why those numbers are a little bit lower or trend lower. And we continue to do that. And I am going to mention how we do that when it comes to Regents exams and where we're headed with that when I talk about Portrait of a Graduate. All right, so again, we're county leaders in 5 of these areas. U.S. History, Global, Bio, Physics, Algebra 1, and we are achieving mastery in Physics, ELA, U.S. History, Global, and Earth Science. Biology maintains an 86 pass rate, while we have tested the largest cohort. So out of all these exams, and like geometry is a very small cohort, there's about 50 students, 50 to 60 students taking that exam versus 161 taking bio at an 86% pass rate on the first time. Any questions on that? All right, just some brief SAT results. If you see where the green line, that is Spackenkill versus New York State and the national average. So New York State's average right now is a little bit higher than the national, and then we would, in both math and reading and writing, score consistently higher than the norm, than average. Just a little bit about attendance. So over last year's attendance reporting, we had 96% attendance in 9th grade, 94 school-wide, 94% for 10th and 11th graders, and 92% for the 12th grade. A little senioritis there, I'm imagining. So we're going to have to keep tabs on that. But overall, just continue on with the attendance. So the average attendance for New York State schools is 90%. We do tie this past year with Wappingers as far as who is number 1 for attendance in Dutchess County. And the lowest, the lowest attendance rate for Dutchess County was 89%. So every other of those 13 schools besides Wappingers would fall in between 89% and 93%. All right, and I just want to briefly talk about Portrait of a Graduate. I'm going to try to be brief. There's a lot to be said about it, but I think that we could save that for another time. But before I do that, those quick facts: 89% of Spackenkill graduates attend higher education. 4-year colleges are 63%. 2-year colleges are 26%. We are seeing a shift in 2-year colleges, creating more programming, branching the gap between, or bridging the gap between trades and college degrees in what we would normally, or we're more historically accustomed to seeing. So you'll start seeing more degrees in construction management and things like that, welding, and then like schools like Nubian are bridging with Dutchess to offer sometimes even associate's degrees in that field. So I would imagine, just my gut feeling is we may start seeing an increase in 2-year colleges, and we'll see an increase in 4-year colleges offering programs more in the trade field. But anyway, so Portrait of a Graduate, the bottom left-hand corner, that is what the state has adopted as like the framework through Ulster BOCES, New York Inspires Transformation Design Cycle. So what we've done at SPAC and Kill is we've kind of reviewed the framework, and we're looking at what our current infrastructure is and how do we apply what the state is requiring in our current framework, because or infrastructure, because you could go really far down the road of major capital improvement projects to accommodate some of the requirements that they would like to see. So we're just starting right now developing program based on what we currently have, and we can do a lot with that already. So the recommendation from the state in reading that book is that schools develop a Portrait of the Graduate design team, which we have done. The centerpiece of New York State Inspires is that cultural sustaining education framework, which really stemmed from all the DEI work that's been done over the past 7 years. So we really kind of shifted our DEI into that community connections model, and then now we have shifted that and focused our energy into what graduation and what skills, determining skills looks like through our community connections committees. So our design team has one member from every department. We have discussed a lot about future-focused mindset and being collaborative and being productive and having a commitment to equity and a radical diverse perspective. So we could sit in a room, there's about 12 or 13 of us, and we could pick apart every issue that we have with where this could go, and we could go down rabbit holes, and we have all personally chosen not to do that and to look at what our program is at SPAC and Kill and make the best of it and make it make sense for everybody and for students that are coming up. Because 10th grade right now will be the first grade that Regents exams are decoupled from graduation requirements. But I want to be clear that Regents exams are not going to go away, and I think I've said this the last time too, because there's funding that's tied into that. And I do think when we talk about some of the opt-outs, there may be a feeling that, well, I don't need to do this exam because we're not going to have to take exams anymore, and we're always going to have seated exams, and we have to. We use the Regents exams right now to really dive into the skills and really narrow down the standard of where the gaps are for students. And you can look at reports on Regents. Every Regents exam, you can pull a report, and I'll use like Claire as an example. Claire takes Algebra 2, and she scores lower on one part of the test. We can look at the report and drill down to the exact standard that she needed support in to make sure that she understood that. When you're talking about skills-based assessment and project-based assessment, that looks much different. So there's a place for that, but there's also a place for assessing through seated exams and what we do currently. I believe that Regents exams will most likely continue to be a chosen pathway for most of our students, for many of our students, because it is a measure that is tangible. But we are going to develop other pathways for students, and you'll see that come out through the next couple of years. We're at the very beginning stages, but I would say we're pretty far ahead compared to other districts and the work that they're doing. So right now, again, we've looked at what our current program is and how do we draft program to show pathways, multiple pathways to achieve a diploma via a Regents pathway, humanities, via internships, hands-on learning in the school, through BOCES, CTI, through science research. And we're looking at everything that we have in our full program, really drilling down and creating plans with what we currently have. We're trying not to go deep into, we need to make additions, we need to add staff, we need to add this program. We're not there yet, and we may not be for a long time, so we want to be realistic, and we want to make sure that we're still ahead of the curve, and we're still providing the best quality education for the students, and I feel really good about it. I'm really proud of it. It's probably, for me personally, what I'm most proud of right now in my first year as principal, that we meet every other week as a Portrait of a Graduate design team, using the framework from the state. We were given that book by our the Board of Regents that came and visited us, and we've studied it, and we're applying it, so we're proud of that. Just two things: topic of coverage for personal finance, climate education. They will be embedded next year, one in economics, one in participation in government. Those are the two tangible, those are the two mandates that must happen next year. So that's what we're doing right now. Will that change? Potentially. We should consider offering a personal finance class to all students and requiring that. We're not there yet with staffing, but we're looking at different ways to provide that in the future. Most schools are applying it this way right now, unless they already have that infrastructure built into their school that they can require every student to take it. And thank you for listening. I'm sorry it was a little long, but.
So just to clarify, so 10th graders, current 10th graders are the first group to have the exam decoupled?
Yeah.
Reading exam. So probably half your student-body now will not be required to take reading exams.
Not be required, but we have to make sure that we I don't know what the word, like, we don't really, it is required because, yeah.
It's a pathway.
It is a pathway, and there are a lot of federal pieces to that we want to make sure that we're doing our due diligence with that and making sure we have the data. And it's also, again, like I say, like when you really look at the plans, many students and parents are going to go, I think that's the best pathway for you. So we really want to make sure that we don't just say, like, we don't have to do it, you know.
It's complicated.
Yeah, it really is. But I think, like, the work that we're doing in the school and the conversations, like, we really have a pretty good understanding. The other dilemma we have right now, and this is not a secret, is that although 10th grade is decoupled, the state hasn't put out the maps or the curriculum or the guidance to bring those two things together. And they are aware that there's a gap. Like that 10th grade and our current 9th grade, it's like a gap year where the plans don't line up with the state timeline and the fact that they're decoupled. So it's a little bit of a gray area, and I've asked that question when we've gone to BOCES, and it's no fault to anybody, but they know that that's a gray area. So we're probably going to have a little growing pains unless there's some shift in the timelines. But this current 10th grade, they will be decoupled, but we will not have the plans from the state yet about what
Alternative.
the pathways look like. Yes.
Alternative.
Yeah.
I appreciate that level of detail. That's really interesting. Complicated.
Any board comments for any of our presentation? I guess I'll just say that we don't always emphasize test scores and data here, particularly at the board level. It is but one indicator of the performance of the district. And for myself, being an engineering math mind, this is always one of my favorite presentations of the year. I sincerely appreciate all the effort that it takes to compile the data, to assess and analyze the data, to come up with the presentation data. Makes it very clear for us and the community to understand all the effort that goes into that. Just so super grateful for all of that. And I think the next level, which is your, as you mentioned, the autopsy, or we called it the takeaways, and how that comes about with how we change and evolve and make it for better outcomes for our students is the most important thing that we do here. So really grateful for all of the time and effort that you put into this, and for all the hard work you do, our teachers, all of our staff. It's really, this is always one of my favorites, as I mentioned, so thank you. Anyone else? No. 7.01, unless Dr. Fanmiller, did you? Okay.
I could wait to the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
7.01 is board correspondence. I don't think we had anything. We might have gotten something today, actually. We did get the letter from the Duchess Bosse's board president with regard to the 2 open seats on the Duchess board. And we'll be addressing that with a vote at some point in the near future. 702, comments from the public on non-agenda items. Any public comments, non-agenda items? Okay. 703, comments from the board. Board comments? Well, then, with that, I'll turn it over to 704, comments from our superintendent.
So a few things just to kind of cap up the evening. First, some thank yous. What you saw today, and I know Mr. Kohler talked about this is his favorite part. We do this a lot. We really break down data. What we always find is we do well, right? So we never focus on the data because we know we do well. We figure out how can we do better, right? And when you talked about the change or the evolvement, that's really what you've seen some of the programs that we talk about. We talk about P2, we talk about AVID, we talk about changes to the MTSS, we talk about special education. All of those, all the data that helps us make decisions about what programs to run, right? So a lot of the programs you see and that we highlight is because we take a look at all that. There is one person in the room who I want to thank explicitly for really helping. And I think everyone will probably know who I'm talking about and probably point to her because she was really what's behind all the data you see today. So we have data meetings, monthly, quarterly, depends upon the data, and she's been leading them and brings us. I need someone who is going to look at trends, not just say, here's the data, and she's been doing that. She's been doing that for a long, long time. She is retiring. But I definitely want to thank Kathy Hoey for all her work with this presentation and everything. And then a quick thank you to our science research teachers who are here. Thank you for presenting and staying throughout. I enjoyed talking to the students very quickly, but just amazing. The level, I mean, they're really at a college level. They're talking about, things that I did for my dissertation. They're talking about it in high school, and it's just amazing. And they're just fun to talk to, and they came to life. I walked up to them, and they came to life. They're definitely ready, willing, and able to talk about their projects. So thank you for that. Thank you to Mr. Rard, who's here, who always brings her students. But Mr. Lewis talked about how we're going to add those 2 changes, climate and finance. And I believe Mr. Rard is spearheading both of those because she teaches both of those classes. So thank you for that. And what Mr. Lewis said about the portrait of a graduate is true. Like, we're trying to almost build the plane as we're flying it. We actually have a pretty major meeting right after break with all the principals, with Duchess Bosse's to really talk about Portrait of the Graduate and where we're headed with that. So, and thank you, Ken, for all your diligence with that, because that is really great what we're doing. And I guess just the final thing is, if you really look at the presentations today, there's a word I'm going to use, and I'll ask Mr. D'Souza or Mr. Lynch which one, because I guess they laugh because I have many things I go to, but if you notice the trend through everything we reported today, is there a word that comes to mind? And you're on the spot. I didn't ask you this before. What do you think it is?
Not me, are you?
Whoever wants it.
Align?
Align. So thank you. If you notice, we really try to stay aligned, and I think that's really been a key to our success, is that we don't jump around and choose this, PD of the day or program of the day. We try to align everything. We try to look at it. The work what they've done at the elementary level with reading. They noticed, like you had said, looked at some of the data. We noticed some of the trends, and then to get the entire elementary on the same program, speaking the same language. Very similar to what we're doing with P2, the whole district speaking the same language. It's that alignment that I think has really been very successful for us, and just want to, it kind of gets lost because we look at it, but if you looked at the presentations, right, and elementary really didn't talk to Mr. Doherty. Mr. Doherty didn't really talk to Ken about the presentations in particular, but you could totally see an alignment thread through that. So I appreciate your work on that. And that's cool. And you got the right word, Mr. D'Souza, so the pressure's off.
I think I'm 100%.
Oftentimes when we have interviews with teachers, I ask one of the principals, what am I thinking now? And they're usually pretty great. Mr. Doherty always like, which one you want? But I thank you, and I thank the board, and I thank everyone for the presentation. Just as Mr. Kohler said, this is a great night for Spackenkill, really to look at this. And look at what we're doing and how we're aligned. This isn't at other districts, so this is pretty special, and I thank everyone for their diligence putting this today, because I know it definitely was a lot of work for them. So thank you, and that'll be my final thank you.
Thank you for that. So 8.01, the board will vote to enter executive session to seek legal advice for contract negotiations. Following the executive session, the board does not anticipate conducting further business. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session? Do I have a second? All in favor? Okay, that passes 4-0. Thank you. We'll see you April 14th.